Hi, thank you so much for popping by. My name is Brita Pobaluzwi. Feel free to call me Bui. Today I'm talking about a topic that is either a taboo or a celebration of life, a rite of passage, depending on where you are and who you are. I've been reading a couple of studies that are showing some of the disparities in how menopause is understood and how it is perceived. Interesting thing about the studies is that they continue to show these effects and influences of our various social, economic, and cultural context that we come from. Whether we're going to view menopause as a personal experience or whether we're going to view menopause as a biomedical condition. Depending on whether you are in the developed or developing context, menopause can have a very different meaning. On one hand, it's a celebration, it's a rite of passage, it is the wisdom that comes with aging. On the other hand, in other societies where the fixation is on sexuality and youth, then menopause definitely represents a decline in value in women because they are no longer seen as sexually attractive and therefore not valuable in that sense, right? So in the more Western world, menopause is actually seen in the context of biomedicine, whereas if you go to the more African cultures, countries such as South Africa and Nigeria, you will notice that menopause is experienced as a personal thing rather than a medical thing. So, for example, I'm going to read a little sentence to show what I mean. So, in some sense, women's social purpose, e.g., of reproduction and mothering, was perceived to end, and therefore they were perceived to become somewhat dangerous or deranged, and nearly every physical or mental disturbance observed among older women was tied to their diminishing fertility. The dominant Western cultural belief permeated medicine's priority of treating menopause as a disorder that needs RHRT, in part because medicine was framed as an unattractive and emotional period women should want to delay. This frame was embedded in a cultural prominence of youth as the definition of beauty. In other cultures, females who have reached menopause are viewed as the elderly, such as in Chivenda. The status of the elderly signifies wisdom and power in the family and community. They are treated with deference and they are expected to mentor the young regarding traditions and customs in the family and society at large. The elderly females are also viewed as people who qualify to talk to their ancestors, as they are considered clean, as they are no longer menstruating. Hence, nurses and other healthcare practitioners need to draw and plan menopausal care from the societal perspective. They say here that, depending on how menopause is understood, right, or how it is perceived, Africans might refuse to accept the term menopause if their languages are not considered to reflect some of menopause's characteristics and meanings. Therefore, the meaning of menopause may conflict with other parts of life in different contexts. But what remains in the meaning makes it easy to understand and cope with the symptoms, right? For example, in many African cultures, menopause is not viewed as a disease, but a rite of passage. So, something that is really coming up strongly from this research is that even when it comes to indigenous knowledge, it needs to be preserved when it comes to menopause. What are these herbs that have worked for women in African cultures or Southern African cultures? What are these herbs that have been useful in terms of managing, coping, and treating menopause? And I think it's very important. For one, I didn't know about the red clover. So that's very interesting. And I imagine that it will be useful for you too. And myth number one that I am noticing as I'm going through some of this research is that I've often heard people say, oh, male menopause as a term, but scientifically, it hasn't been proven. it shows here that men do not experience menopause, and certainly they do not experience menopause in the same way that women do. So that's just to get that out of the way. Alrighty. Right. This has been very interesting, even for me, to go through these research studies and to see what these differences might be in how we perceive and understand menopause. If you're wondering where this conversation is coming from, oh, well, I've been watching Miss Halle Berry. She's been going around preaching the good word about how this is a natural and transitionary stage that women go through. And I think she's just basically raising awareness on menopause. And therefore, I was just backing her up with a little bit more of this research based, evidence based information to understand this concept of menopause and how it is experienced differently and depending on our various cultures. Alrighty, thank you so much for popping by. I hope you're having a lovely day where you are. But most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.